At this time, the regular meeting of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees is now called to order at 9:30-ish.
30.
You may join today's meeting in person at a limited capacity via Zoom webinar or watch the live stream from the College of the Desert YouTube channel. These links are accessible by visiting the College of the Desert homepage. Before we begin today's meeting, I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize and remember a member of the COD family that unfortunately passed away over the weekend. Dr. Nicole Tortoris began her teaching career at College of the Desert in the summer of 2000 as a part-time faculty member and was hired as a full-time tenured track faculty member in sociology in the fall of 2008. Dr. Tortoris was loved by many, especially students, and will be truly missed. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember Nicole. Thank you. At this time, President Hope, please proceed with the roll call.
Student Trustee Zarco.
Here.
Trustee Oden.
Here.
Trustee Kinnaman.
Here.
Trustee Perez.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez. Trustee Stefan.
Present. At this time, if I could have Trustee Perez lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2B2, the board may take action on items of business not appearing on the posted agenda upon a determination of a 2/3 vote of the board. If fewer than 2/3 of the members are present, a unanimous vote of those present determine that there is a need to take immediate action and that the need for action came to the attention of the local agency subsequent to the agenda being posted as specified. 2.02 confirmation of agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda for September 15th, 2023? Seeing none, the agenda stands approved as presented. Public comments. 3.01, request to address the Board of Trustees regarding the regular agenda items. Remote public participation is allowed and will be accepted in person by email to otp@collegeofthedesert.edu during the meeting and submitted for the record, or by using the raise your hand function by joining the Zoom link. Pursuant to District Administrative Procedure 2345, each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes per topic. 15 minutes shall be the maximum time allotment for public speakers on any one subject, regardless of the number of speakers at any one board meeting. At the discretion of a majority of the board, these limits may be extended. All comments must be submitted or brought forward prior to the end of the public comments section. As an additional note, this item is intended for members of the public who wish to speak regarding regular agenda items. An opportunity to address the board on matters not related to the agenda will be available during item 14.01 of today's agenda. Armando. Do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments today.
Okay. Public updates. 4.01 Proclamation National Hispanic Heritage Month. President Hope, would you please help us introduce our reader for this proclamation?
Yes, for this proclamation, I'd like to ask Vice President Baker to make the introduction to read the proclamation.
All right. So for our first one for National Hispanic Heritage Month, our student is in thermal, so Armando will be reading for us this morning. Thank you very much. 1 second. Okay. Proclamation, National Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas Americans of Hispanic heritage have a sophisticated ancestry which dates back hundreds of years, exploring and settling in our country before the War of Independence, and whereas they brought with them a deep commitment to family and community, a strong work ethic, and an unwavering belief in the American dream, and whereas in a nation that derives so much strength from cultures and races, Hispanic Americans are a thriving force in our society and a vital part of our economy, and whereas let us reflect on the countless ways in which Hispanics have contributed to our nation's success, and let us reaffirm our commitment to expanding opportunity and building an ever brighter future for all. Let us embrace the diversity that strengthens us. And whereas College of the Desert is a proud Hispanic-serving institution and a member of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, and students take this opportunity to honor Hispanics for their many valuable contributions to this great land, and be it further proclaimed that the Board of Trustees of the Desert Community College District are pleased to recognize September 15 through October 15 as National Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Armando.
Thank you. And now for 4.02, the proclamation for Transfer Month. President Hope, could you please help us introduce our reader for this proclamation?
Yes, again, I'd like to turn to Vice President Baker for an introduction on our transfer proclamation.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce our transfer coordinator, phenomenal counselor Scott Cooper, who will introduce our readers.
Good morning, and thank you for having us today to read this proclamation. As you know, October begins the transfer application season, so it's a very busy and special time for me and students. Transfer is one of the primary missions of the college, and it's our time to shine. At our last educational master plan meeting, we were presented with CalPAS data that showed that our transfer numbers since 2014-15 have increased by 60%. Those are great numbers, and it's something that we need to replicate and continue. And behind those numbers are real people. So today I brought two real students whose lives have changed or are about to change for the good. I'd like to introduce Kensington Peterson, who is an amazing artist as well as a scientist. You don't find this very often, but she will be transferring to UC Berkeley in the spring, where she's a double major in both film and media and integrative biology. So imagine doing all of those prerequisites. She's also the vice president of the Roadrunner Makers Club. Thomas Cortez, on my right here, graduated proudly from College of the Desert. He transferred to UC Riverside, where he graduated with his bachelor's degree. He was accepted to USC, and I had the pleasure of attending his graduation in May from USC, where he graduated with a master's in counseling. He was recently accepted into our adjunct pool, and I look forward to calling him colleague one day. So at this time, we'll read the proclamation.
Whereas transfer to a four-year university is one of the primary roles of the community college system, as outlined in the California Master Educational Plan and reaffirmed in the California Promise Program. And whereas the social and community impact of obtaining a bachelor's degree improves financial stability, health, and increases tax revenues, helping our national, state, and local communities. And whereas the State Chancellor's Office has identified the Inland Empire as an area for opportunity for growth in transfer numbers. And
whereas College of the Desert is one of the California community colleges striving to achieve the state's goals, and it's the primary community college serving the entire Coachella Valley. And whereas College of the Desert has had the largest graduating and transfer-ready classes in our history for the last 3 consecutive years. And whereas College of the Desert has dedicated fiscal personal resources to actively grow and transfer population and streamline degree pathways for our students. And
Whereas October begins the application cycle to the California State University and the University of California Systems, our largest transfer partners. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that October be proclaimed Transfer Month at College of the Desert. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to our former graduate and our future graduate that helped us with that proclamation today. And at this time, 4.03, Proclamation National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month. President Hope, could you please help us introduce our reader for this proclamation?
Yes, again, I'm going to turn to Vice President Baker to help us with this proclamation.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Tula Marin, Director of our TRIO program.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to introduce Cindy Curiel. She was born and raised in the Coachella Valley and graduated from Coachella Valley High School in 2008. She joined the United States Navy serving a 4-year contract in San Diego, California, and we thank her for her service. After completing 4 years of active duty, she traveled throughout Southern California and then decided to return to the Coachella Valley to pursue her degree in digital design. Her goal is to become a graphic art designer, and currently she will be graduating this year of class of 2024. Please help me welcome Cindy Curiel to read the National Disability Employment Awareness Proclamation.
Whereas in July 1991, President Bush signed into law the Americans with Disability Act to promote and protect the rights of American citizens with disabilities, establishing a national mandate to end discrimination. And whereas the civil rights law applies to the 61 million Americans with disabilities, comprising the largest single minority group in the United States. And whereas disability is more often an attitude than a lifestyle. And whereas eligibility to the grouping as disabled is inclusive and transcends issues of race, ethnicity, age, gender, and economic status, all are eligible. And whereas contributions made to society, civilization, and the whole human experience by individuals with disabilities should be acknowledged and celebrated for the benefit and the betterment of all. And whereas the purpose of National Disabilities Awareness Month is the enlightenment of all Americans to the abilities of the individual and the inclusion of all the needs of all its citizens in issues of equity, access, education, and employment. And be it furthermore resolved that Desert Community College District declares and affirms the month of October as National Disabilities Awareness Month and celebrates the lives and contributions made by individuals with disabilities to promote enlightenment of individual abilities.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service, Cindy, and thank you, Cindy and Tula, for that wonderful reading of our proclamation for National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month. At this time, the minutes, approval of August 18th, 2023, regular meeting minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the regular meeting minutes of August 18th, 2023? If there are no corrections to the minutes, they stand approved. This time we'll go into the reports. Associated Students of College of the Desert, Ascot. If we could have Kelly Merchant from our Ascot president, step to the microphone, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Okay, good morning. As you may know, my name is Kelly Merchant, and I'm honored to introduce myself as Ascot president for the 2023-2024 academic year. So this marks my third year at College of the Desert, my second serving on Ascot, having previously served as a vice president. It is with great enthusiasm that I begin this term. I look forward to pushing the student government to further heights. In light of the recent pandemic, it has been apparent that student life has decreased. I am pleased to inform you that our team of more than 10 driven and dedicated members is more than fully committed to addressing this challenge. Our primary mission this year is to increase Ascot visibility and develop our leadership skills by aptly representing the student body. We have taken a significant step by hosting a welcome week during the initial week of the semester. This initiative spanned to both the Palm Desert and the Indio campus, where we engage with fellow students. We hand out snacks and refreshments, play games, and encourage them to write down their personal goals for the upcoming semester. As a result, we saw a substantial increase in our Instagram follower count by current students. Furthermore, we have actively promoted and filled vacant independent senator and officer positions at an unprecedented pace compared to the previous years. In essence, we have the dedication, determination necessary to tackle the challenges that lie ahead this year. With your support and active involvement, I'm confident that Ascot will thrive. I look forward to reporting our progress throughout the year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to have Kathy Abbott from the Foundation Executive Director from the College of the Desert Foundation step forward, please.
Good morning, Board of Trustees, Student Trustee Zarko, and Superintendent President Hope. I would first want to say welcome to the students enrolled at College of the Desert for the fall semester. It's so great to see the campus so busy. You can see the excitement on campus, and you can certainly feel all of the renewed energy. So let's talk about a few things that are happening at the foundation, because needless to say, there are a multitude. So stepping out for COD, sometimes I think I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but once again, the Foundation Stepping Out Committee is planning for next year's event. In the 22-23 fiscal year, we gave ourselves a stretch goal of $550,000, thanks to the tireless work of our three co-chairs, Bill Chenowitz, Tom Minder, and Robert Moon. They exceeded the goal by $51,000 for a total of $601,000 in gross revenue. This year's co-chairs are making some exciting changes to the event. As soon as they, along with their committee members, have everything dialed in, we'll be sure to inform you, and just stay tuned. All right, so we currently have a lead gift, though, of $25,000 from our foundation chair, Diane Rubin and Lenny Eber. That will help start our fundraising efforts, and we want to thank them for their generous gift. Let's see, I just lost my, okay. I have communicated in many of my reports the launch of the Great Alumni Hunt. This joint effort between the Foundation and the Alumni Association will kick off on September 29th here on the campus in front of the Alumni Association building. I'm pleased to report that Eisenhower Healthcare and Jordan Schnitzer and the Harold and Arlene Schnitzer Care Foundation have signed on at the title sponsor level of $25,000 each, with Amazon signing on at $10,000. We want to thank our media sponsors, Desert Sun and KESQ. We have spoken with Acrisure Arena to serve as our host for the culminating event during a Firebirds home opener. The one-month Amazing Race style event will be led by student interns. They, along with their team members, consisting of a faculty or staff member and a community member, will seek out and find 1,000 College of the Desert alumni during the month of October. During intermission of the hockey game, the foundation will announce our scholarship winners and also recognize and thank our sponsors and our alumni. The definition of alumni in this race means that they have taken and completed at least one class. Tickets to the hockey game will be donated by our presenting sponsors. That means everybody that participates will get to go to a hockey game. They're playing the Ontario Reign, if that helps encourage anybody. But we also hope that you will join us to put an exclamation point at the end of this brand new event. Program support, the foundation recently sent out an appeal to our donors following the damage of Hurricane Hilary. We knew that there would be some students that were affected from areas around the valley that were hardest hit and who may need some additional support. The foundation received $5,000 from Jim and Cynthia Williams, $1,000 from Diane and Jerry Wendell, $500 from Marge Dodge, $250 from Elizabeth Chambers, $180 from Miss Laura Graff, and other miscellaneous gifts from various donors on campus and in the community. This is a fund that was severely depleted due to the needs of our students during the pandemic, which is a good thing. We want to spend that money. And we hope that others will consider donating to the fund to help us continuing to support College of the Desert students in need of financial assistance. Totaling to date, the foundation has awarded emergency funding to 520 students since its inception in 2020. I personally want to thank everybody who financially supported the Student Emergency Fund and invested in the education of our students. Other notable donations, the foundation also recently received $50,000 from the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, supporting Pledge and our Basic Needs program. This is the first time that San Manuel has supported this institution. And finally, last month, I was going to pass out the annual report, but unfortunately, I was unable to make the meeting, so I handed them to Armando. I think he distributed them for the trustees. So I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, just call my office, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone that's helped to support the students here at College of the Desert through the foundation. At this time, we normally have the College of the Desert Alumni Association report. There's no report today, though. California School Employees Association, CSEA, Keith Prouty, CSEA interim president.
Madam Chair, I don't believe that he's here.
He's not available. Okay. College of the Desert Adjunct Association, CODAA, Kathy Levitt.
Madam Chair, I believe you have a written report for Kathy Levitt, as she was not able to be here.
There is a written report. And College of the Desert Faculty Association, CODFA, Oceana Collins, the president.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. All right, well, good morning, Superintendent President Hope, trustees, and College of the Desert community. Before I begin my report, it is with a heavy heart that we remember a dear colleague, Dr. Nicole Titoris, who passed away suddenly last weekend. Nicole has worked at College of the Desert for 23 years as a full-time sociology professor. She was much loved by her students and colleagues. She touched the lives of many, and just this semester alone, she was serving 400 students. Nicole had an approachable open-door policy, and her office was often packed with students. As a colleague, she was always had a smile to share and a witty comment to make. She will be missed by students and colleagues alike, and we send our heartfelt condolences to her family. With fall semester underway, it is a joy to see faculty and students interacting throughout the campus. CODFA is pleased to announce that our members have voted to ratify our 23-24 contract, and we look forward to preparing for our limited opener negotiations in the spring. I want to acknowledge the work of our negotiations team last spring and give a special shout out to the CODFA negotiations team, Dr. Leif Jordan, Dr. Veronica Doubt, Jenna Hunsinger, and Jorge Perez, along with the district team, Diana Galindo, Terry Wilson, Dean Phillips, and Dean Plunkett. In addition, I would like to give a warm public welcome to our new Superintendent President Hope. Our association looks forward to continuing working with you. Finally, CODFA would like to remind the administration that timely communication is fundamental to creating relationships of trust and co-governance. Because we all may come to the table with different perspectives, it is respectful communication that is essential for understanding what we all need to work towards an efficient institution that serves to benefit our students and our community. That concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Dr. Corbin Wild, the Academic Senate President. Good morning.
Good morning. Today I am truly excited, and I'm just now realizing that every time I come here I say I'm excited, but I am. So I'm really excited to share a necessary step to amplify student perspective that has recently taken root at our Senate meetings. It's an initiative that seeks to nurture and acknowledge the voices of the very heart and soul of our institution, the students. As your Academic Senate President, I am privileged to introduce to you student spotlights that will be occurring during each of our bi-monthly Senate meetings. At College of the Desert, we've always been deeply committed to fostering student success and satisfaction. However, true success lies in not just educating our students, but engaging them as active partners in shaping their own educational journeys. This belief has led us to the creation of Student Spotlights. Student Spotlights are a moment during our Academic Senate meetings where faculty are quiet and students speak. We are not talking about policies or procedures during this time, but we are focusing on stories, experiences, and aspirations of our remarkable students. The Student Spotlights are our way of giving our students a platform to share journeys, concerns, dreams with all of us in a public forum. This space is informal, student-driven, and free of the often intimidating formality of traditional report structures. The essence of this initiative can be summed up in 3 simple goals. First, amplifying student voice. We want every student to know that their voice matters. Student Spotlights ensure that every thought, every concern, and every suggestions our students have resonates within our institution. Second, enhancing student engagement. Beyond the classroom, beyond the books, we want our students to be deeply engaged with their educational experience. These sessions build bridges between our students and our Academic Senate, fostering a sense of belonging and shared responsibility for our college. Third, strengthen collaboration. At Senate, we believe that the best decisions are made when we come together as a community. Student Spotlights create a powerful moment of connection where students, faculty, staff, and administrators can collaborate to shape a brighter future for all of us. Yesterday, we did have our first Student Spotlight. We were lucky to have some student nurses come visit us and a DSPS students. They shared ways in which we can make their experiences better, ideas that I think some of us maybe hadn't thought about before. It was truly a remarkable moment, and I think everyone was there can agree. It started our meeting with a reaffirmation of why we do what we do. Reminds us why we're all there. As we move forward, Student Spotlights will be a regular part of our Academic Senate meetings. You would think I'd be better at saying that. We will ensure that students from various programs, backgrounds, and experiences get a chance to shine. Consider this report an all call to students, faculty, and staff to amplify the voices around us. Reach out to me if you would like to have a student or student organization come speak. Remember, this is students. We love you, everybody, but we want to hear from the students specifically. Before I leave, I do want to thank Irene Morales, Leslie Quinones, Sarah Fry, Donnie Price, Andre Pacheco, Carlos Maldonado, Danny Torres, Cody McCabe, Christy Camacho, Jonathan Gorges, and most of all, Cheryl Etter for taking what started as a half-brained idea and immediately getting it off the ground. I'd literally thought of this like 2 weeks ago, and we got it up for our first Senate meeting. I'm so proud of everybody. They and this work truly embodies our commitment to putting our students at the center of all we do, and it strengthens the bond between our Academic Senate and the incredible students we're privileged to serve. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move into the governing board reports. Student Trustees Zarco.
Good morning. Hope you're all doing good, well, fantastic, and all that. The fall semester for this academic year has begun, and I cannot express how excited I am. Throughout the summer, as I was getting a grasp of the student trustee position, in the back of my mind, I was waiting for the semester to start to get a real flow going. And to be honest, it has really been, going. August 28th was my first day here on the campus since the semester started, and it was great to see more students walking around the campus than there was the last academic year, or that's what it felt like. Students asking for directions or wanting to know what's on campus, it was great to see. There was this one interaction I saw where the student was looking for a water refill station, and another student told him where the best refill station was. Now, it may be something simple, but to me, instead of just telling him where a general one was, he told him where the best one was. It made me want to go to that refill station to find out myself, but I couldn't because I was clocked in at work. I work at the Office of Student Life, and one of the things I ask students when they come for their student ID is what made them want to come to College of the Desert. This question was mainly for new students who just came out of high school. One of the most common answers was the school was in the Coachella Valley. The incoming students, knowing that there is a college where they get to further their education and it's in their home valley, just shows that if there's something for students, they're going to take it. And that's the spirit I like to see, take an opportunity. The MyCOD app is great, by the way. I was surprised how many students I interacted with already had it, and even more surprised that some students would download the app on the spot. Working at the Office of Student Life has given me more opportunity to interact with students that I probably couldn't have on my own. From August 28th to August 31st, ASCOD participated in a welcome week like Kelly mentioned, holding up their own tent and snacks and water to keep the students hydrated in the heat, and also a goal board, which was good to see students ride on. The first 2 days were at Palm Desert and the other 2 days were at Indio. I didn't participate heavily in the welcome week tents because of my schedule, but when I did, there was always a handful of students at a time wondering why the tent was up and how we would introduce ourselves to the students, or maybe just helping a student with directions. It was nice to feel different vibes at the two campuses. That's probably one of my favorite things, is how different the Palm Desert campus and Indio campus feel compared to each other. I hope to visit the other offsite campuses and see what they're like. On August 30th, there was a resource fair here at the Palm Desert campus, and it was very active. I had the chance to help the Basic Needs Center set up their table, and I also saw President Hope there. And at my own time, I went to some of the tables to get information I didn't know before about specific resources. It was a great event and had a ton of students and got crowded very quickly. With all that being said, I want to wish everyone their best going into this semester and new academic school year. For the students, there's going to be times where you feel stressed out or want to give up, but remember what you are doing is for the purpose, whether that's for yourself, your family, your future, or friends. If you need any assistance, we have a tutoring center that offers free tutoring, and we also have a student health and wellness center if the stress is beginning to grow and you need support for stress or anxiety. Remember to keep your head up and keep pushing forward until you complete what you want and more.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for taking a moment of silence in honor of Nicole this morning. Oceana, for your words. I had the opportunity to work very closely with her in the department, and truly it is a loss that we all feel very deeply and personally. I've been on campus quite a few times this semester, because I dropped my granddaughter off, so I'm here a couple of days a week. And one of the first things that I noticed were the parking lots and the number of cars. So I sent a message to the president that it was really good to see so much activity back at the primary campus. On October 4th, District 3 will be hosting a Welcome to District 3 gathering for our superintendent president. We're looking forward to making introductions for the leadership throughout the community and giving you an opportunity to talk about your platform in the community. So we look forward to it. It will be held at the Hilton at 5:30 in Palm Springs. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chairman Stefan. Again, I want to acknowledge President Hope for doing her visiting and listening to her across the valley. I think that's very critical and probably insightful for you. I've received numerous phone calls praising what they have heard and that you're taking the time to listen to the community. In addition, I want to acknowledge, I appreciate getting your weekly updates and keeping us informed on things that are going on. There's so much that is going on. And then the faculty, staff, and administrators, acknowledge them for all their work that they had to do with the unforeseen happening of the hurricane to the valley. And I know you had to adjust and pivot just like when we went through the pandemic. and it was good to see how you responded. And the other thing I notice as I look out to this audience is I appreciate so many community members, faculty members, staff members, and administrators coming and participating. Your presence here is very important, and it shows your commitment and interest in what the board is doing. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome everybody back to fall semester. I had the opportunity to attend President Hope's listening session at the Mecca Thermal Campus. Very informative. I think we had some participation there, hoping that as we're diving into, or she's getting acclimated, we're able to get a bigger presence in the Eastern Coachella Valley, and hopefully we get a bigger turnout next time. I also had the honor and privilege of attending the nursing pinning ceremony last week, and as a few of my friends and family members were getting pinned, and what a beautiful experience. It was amazing. The entire production, the work that went into it, Gary Plunkett, Sarah Fry, the rest of the faculty and staff in the nursing program, you all did an amazing job. My favorite part was listening to the stories and them thanking their loved ones as they're walking across the stage and receive their pin, and it was so touching and moving. And as Corbin said, that it really does remind us why it is that we do this type of work. That really has to be one of my favorite events that I've ever attended. And last but certainly not least, I'd also like to extend condolences to the Nicole Tortores family. Our heart goes out to you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Trustee Gonzalez, if you could just check your mic. Thank you. A little closer. Yeah. Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez, I'm sorry, you might be having a tech issue here. Give us just 1 second to make sure your mic is on. You just do a test. Check. We're good?
We're good?
All right. We
Want
are
to start over? I'm
back.
good.
Yes, for captioning purposes. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you for that. As I mentioned, just, welcome everyone to the new semester. And President Hope and I were able to attend the State of the District for Coachella Valley Unified School District. It was a really nice event, student performances, and I appreciate President Hope taking the time to attend. I know Palm Springs Unified has one coming up, so I'm hoping that, we're able to attend that one as well. I'm not sure if Desert Sands is having one or not, but, I think it would be good, right, to be present at some of those, because those are obviously who's going to feed into our population here at College of the Desert. I as well want to extend my condolences from reading the emails that a lot of you shared. She sounds like just an amazing person. It's unfortunate for me that I was not able to meet her, but I do want to extend my condolences to all of you, all the faculty and students here whose lives she definitely touched, and also to the family members. And I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. For my report, first off, I want to also send my condolences to Dr. Nicole Torres' family. I know that 22 years is a long time to be at an institution and be a part of it. And I know she'll be missed because she became family for all of us. On a happier note, last week we had a football game. It was home, and I know it was fought and it was up and down and all over the place. That's what they reported on the news, and that our students were victorious. The Road Runners won, and I'm so very, very proud of them. I'm always proud of them, but especially when they're able to pull something out at the last minute like they did. And so I really want to congratulate them. And I know they're going to have a tough game this week, but I know they're going to do a great job too. Today is the last day for Out of the Fire, our art exhibit, and I hope that anyone that hasn't had the opportunity yet will have the opportunity to attend that today. We've had a very busy start to the school year, and I know that everybody that is part of our college family, both in and out of the college, has been working very, very, very hard. I've heard excellent things from my students about their family members that are attending this year, that things are just going really well. They're all excited. The Valley is astir again, and everybody is kind of putting COVID on that back burner, and we're all hoping that it stays away and that we can get back to a normal, but it will be a new normal. And we did have a 2x2, but we only had a 2x1 from the college. President Hope and myself attended it with the City of Indio. We're going to try to get those going again, try to get the districts 2x2s for each of those. And hopefully we can get that in place before December, and we rotate again so that we have something in place for each of our communities and each of our districts in the Valley where we're meeting on a regular basis, but also including our college personnel that we need to include so that we can make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone in the community. And with that, I'm going to conclude my report. And we're going to go back to our regular agenda, if I can find it here. And I want to apologize because I did have my microphone off for a while, so that might be what goofed them up. They caught that, huh? Okay, I thought I better admit it. And they're all laughing back there. I can hear them laughing at me. Okay. Okay, and at this time, we will have the Superintendent President. President Hope, could you provide your report, please?
Yes, thank you very much. As everyone has commented, it's been a busy start to the fall semester, especially with the storm. The storm was really difficult on the campus because it occurred just before Flex, and so the faculty had to shift and Flex entirely online, which thankfully everybody has a lot of experience doing that. I also want to commend the IT staff, the M&O staff, and campus safety for working hard on those 2 days that the campus was closed to get things back up and going. We lost about 30 trees, 5 light poles, and we had water intrusion in a number of rooms. And that was all addressed quickly enough for us to prioritize spaces where students were being served so that we could start a seamless beginning for fall semester. So thank you to all of you who worked extra hard to make that happen. Additionally, I wanted to comment on the passing of Nicole Tartoris. I also did not know her, but I've had so many faculty come and talk to me about her value and contribution to the campus. As Oceana mentioned, she had 400 students enrolled in her classes in the fall, and the reason she did is because she was so beloved. And so that obviously creates a pall at the beginning of the semester to start with the loss of one of our loved colleagues and important community members. I wanted to mention too, as Vice President Gonzalez mentioned, I attended the State of the District for Coachella and got a great introduction to B's colleagues there, and I appreciate that introduction as we want to do some important work together. Wanted to note too that the college is working hard to stand up a new paramedics program, and I want to thank Neil for his extra work on those efforts, as well as Vice President Martinez Garcia. And also acknowledge the fact that despite maybe a rocky past, the college successfully endured a rather aggressive cyber attack over the last couple of weeks. And thanks to the leadership of Vice President Garcia and also Stuart Davis, we were able to be safe at the end of that episode. So it's a good sign that we're in a much safer position. So with that, thank you so much, Chairperson Stefan.
Okay, thank you. I did turn it on that time. Okay, as we move into the consent agenda, all items on the consent agenda will be considered for approval by a single vote without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda to be discussed and considered separately in the action agenda. Are there any requests to separately consider any of the consent agenda items?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay.
9.2, number 1.
9.2, number 1, part 1.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone have anything else they'd like to pull? Seeing none. Seeing no further pulls, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling 9.2, part 1 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
It's been moved and seconded. And is there, President Hope, could we have a roll call vote?
Student Trustee Zarco.
Aye.
Trustee Oden.
Aye.
Trustee Kinnaman.
Aye.
Trustee Perez. Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Stefan.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, now at this time, we will consider, we're going to action agenda, and items pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration will be brought up here. So do I have a motion to approve item 9.2, number 1?
This is for discussion, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Move.
And then we'll take a vote.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we approve item 9.2, number 1, that was pulled from the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? And I know you brought this up, Trustee Gonzalez, so would you like to address it?
No discussion. You can call for the vote. Just wanted to consider it for a separate vote.
Oh, for a separate vote, okay. This is, if we could have it read, this is the approval of expenditure contracts, agreements, amendments, and non-monetary agreements.
And if IT could pull its item 9.02, the attachment, and we're looking at item number 1.
Which is Terra Nova Planning and Research Incorporated. And this goes back to environmental impact report for the Palm Springs Development Project. Okay, so that's what we'll be voting on. Is there any further discussion? We've had a look at it. Okay, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Student Trustee Zarco.
Aye.
Trustee Oden.
Aye.
Trustee Kinnaman.
Aye.
Trustee Perez. Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Stefan.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 in favor of aye.
Thank you. And that brings us into our action agenda items. So at this time, we have 11.01, resolution number 091523-1, a resolution of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees to provide students with free transportation. Before we consider this item, I'd like to ask President Hope and the district's legal counsel, Alicia Stein-Manis, to provide their perspectives regarding the resolution as it is written. President Hope.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Chairperson. The resolution focuses primarily on addressing the needs of our students' transportation. And as you may recall, Trustee Zarco spoke to this in the very first board meeting that I attended. And I think all of us in the community recognize that this is an issue for our students. And I certainly support the intent of the resolution. However, I think one of the core issues that we need to do first is a thorough and thoughtful analysis of the implications before we make that commitment. And so that's just one of the steps that I think makes sense in terms of looking at this methodically. So let me turn it over to our general counsel representation, Alicia.
Thank you, President Hope. Good morning, trustees. I agree with what President Hope shared from a legal perspective. I do think it's important to vet resolutions before the board votes on them. There is a component of this resolution that talks about providing free services to students. I'm not taking an opinion. I think it is wonderful that that is a goal of the district, but there has to be a discussion about where that funding is going to come from. And from a legal perspective, I believe there needs to be a discussion with your subject matter experts at the district. Where would the funds come from? Would they come from the foundation? Would they come from a general fund? How would that operate? And in regards to other components of any resolution, my recommendation is always to have appropriate staff review any representations that have been made in a resolution to ensure accuracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Having heard from legal counsel, I'd like to motion to table consideration of this item until legal counsel and district staff have an opportunity to review thoroughly and provide their recommendations. Do I have a second for that?
I have a question. One of the first, I think it was the first topic that I brought up.
Madam Chair, you need a second.
I need a second before we can have discussion. I'm so sorry.
Second, Madam Chair.
Okay, it's discussion. Go ahead.
One of the first topics that I brought up was either a subcommittee dealing with this topic and Sunline or a agency-to-agency meeting. I think the goal here is supplemental, not primary. So, but if this, I think tabling it perhaps is a good idea, but I want to follow up on either doing the subcommittee or agency-to-agency meeting because I think it's that important.
Okay, would you like to amend that motion then? To include maybe a subcommittee and an agency-to-agency?
Either one is fine for me.
Either one? Okay. Well, let's start with adding a subcommittee.
It was my suggestion, so I'll definitely volunteer for the subcommittee.
Would you like to amend it to adding a subcommittee then?
Okay, subcommittee first, yes, sure.
Okay, and then a subcommittee, and then possibly go into something else to further it. So it had, the motion, is there a second to the motion? Or can I accept that as a friendly amendment, since I made the?
Yeah, there's no friendly amendments, but just for clarity, so that we can make sure that it's germane to the motion on the table. The motion on the table is to postpone the item. And so how does the subcommittee amendment interact with that main motion, because they've got to be related.
Okay.
Right,
So it would say, I would like to motion to table consideration of the item to legal counsel and district staff having an opportunity to review thoroughly, provide their recommendations to a subcommittee of the board.
Who will report back?
Who will report back to the full board.
Okay, so you're just inserting,
Adding.
submit to a subcommittee with a report back. So for the minutes, that's the only addition. So if this is passed, then it just needs to be understood that the next step would be to appoint a subcommittee, and that would be a separate action item.
And can we add that?
No, ma'am.
We can't add
No,
that today.
You could, yes, there could be a second motion, but you cannot add it to this motion.
No,
So at the
not add
conclusion
to
of this
this
motion, if
motion.
this passes, you could take a next step, yes.
Then I could take the next step.
Correct.
Okay, even though it's not agendized? How could I do that?
I would suggest that because it's not agendized, that is not what the agenda says, just this is about a motion,
Mhm.
that be added to the next board meeting to appoint a subcommittee. That doesn't mean that staff cannot begin
They
the
can begin.
process. But
Okay.
the action of appointing a subcommittee, because this agenda item does not state that,
Okay.
I would suggest holding off until October.
Okay, so let me go back to the person that was amending or adding to this motion.
Well, the subcommittee is separate. The motion can stand, can it? And we just don't do the subcommittee at this meeting. We do it at the next.
The subcommittee would be appointed at the next meeting, but in the meantime, the staff would be meeting, but their information would be held at bay. Okay? Okay, just so that you're aware of that. Okay. The subcommittee to report back to the board. Okay. So the new motion or amended motion would, or the, is it amended?
So right now you have a first.
motion.
You have a motion on the table, and you have a motion to amend that,
Okay.
right? And it sounded to me like you were going to second that, but it wasn't
Yes, I
stated for the
seconded
minutes.
that. But then when we got legal counsel's input, I wanted to make sure that he still wanted to stick with it.
Correct, so you're still on the discussion of adopting the amendment?
Okay, so now we're looking at the amendment. So is there any further discussion on the amended motion that was
Of inserting to submit.
to, at the end, to a subcommittee to report back to the board?
I would say, Madam Chair, that if we're going to table it, I don't think it's a good time for us to be amending or adding, based on the recommendation from legal counsel. I have some other questions about it. but
Okay,
just-
go ahead.
just my-
Anything you want to?
But just my 2 cents, if we're going to table it, then let's table it. And then that way, when it comes back, then, whatever needs to be done can be discussed. But thank you, Trustee Oden. I was going to ask who brought this forward. Obviously, you all know where I stand. The West Valley campus should have been built where the students actually live, and that would have been Desert Hot Springs. It would probably be a lot more cost-effective to transport the smaller number of students that reside in Palm Springs to Desert Hot Springs than this. But I'm also concerned that what precedent are we setting here? Because the transportation, and of course, Desert Hot Springs is my area, and of course, I want students to be able to have access. But I stand where I stand as far as the location of the project. But are we also disenfranchising any other student that lives anywhere else in the area that we serve by only providing transportation to a certain group? I don't know if it was, maybe someone came to terms with their conscience and figured that, this was probably kind of a way to make peace, but I'm still concerned because what if students that live in India want to come to this campus, Mecca Thermal, anywhere else, Desert Center, we also represent that area, so that's my concern. And, my other concern also, and I know our legal counsel already addressed it, is that, we have this resolution here, and it was never, vetted financially, and I know there are a lot of folks on this dais here that have a long history of, managing millions and millions of dollars. And I'm just really concerned, overall. And so I would say, that if it's going to be tabled, that we just tabled it. Because I think that for me, there's a lot of questions here.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. If we could have a roll call vote, please, President Hope.
What are we voting on exactly?
We're voting on the motion that was amended to include a committee to report back to the board. In other words, I would like, the motion was to table consideration of the item until legal counsel and district staff have an opportunity to review thoroughly and provide the recommendations to a subcommittee to report back to the board.
Student trustee Zarco.
Aye.
Trustee Oden.
Aye.
Trustee Kinnaman.
No.
Trustee Perez.
No.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Nay.
Trustee Stefan.
Aye. Okay, the amended motion has failed, so now we go back to the original motion. The original motion was to table consideration of the item until legal counsel and district staff have an opportunity to review thoroughly and provide their recommendations. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, President Hope.
Student trustee Zarco.
Aye.
Trustee Oden.
Aye.
Trustee Kinnaman.
Aye.
Trustee Perez.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Just to be clear, we're voting to table this, right? Okay, I just want to make sure. Aye.
Okay, that was an aye.
And trustee Stefan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. That has been tabled, and we will be hopefully getting a report back soon on that. Okay, we're down to action item. Administrative Services, 12.01, public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2024 final budget. Before the public hearing and action on this item, I'd like to ask President Hope to have item 13.01 presented at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Vice President Garcia as well as his team member, Diana Quijano, to present on the adopted budget.
Okay, good morning, Madam President, members of the board. Sorry, I need these to read and I can't look up with these. But today we're going to be presenting, Diana and I will be presenting the adopted budget for 23-24. We're going to go ahead and get started first with high level, the state information, and then we'll bring it down to what that means for College of the Desert. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I forgot to get the
And if IT can open up that's one of the attachments. We're looking at item 13.01.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so overall, the economic environment, again, California continues to have a decline. The current budget deficit is $31.5 billion. Some of the factors for this is inflation, the downturn of the stock market, primarily technology, high interest rate, the real estate slowdown, and as well as the 22 tax filing deadlines delayed from April to October, which is roughly $42 billion of scheduled tax receipts that have been pushed off. One of the problems this creates is now they have to basically estimate what they think they're going to get instead of already knowing. But one of the good things that the Chancellor's Office has mentioned to us is if for some reason the revenue comes below their expectations or their estimates, they will not hold the community colleges accountable for that portion of it. That does not mean they won't deficit us, but at least for that portion, they will not hold us accountable. So some of the ongoing investments, Prop 98 is the way the K through 14s get funded. There's an additional $953 million, just under 1%, increase from previous year and $125 million for community colleges. That's about 1% increase. In that, there's a 8.22% COLA. COLA isn't always, well, it's never applied to all categorical programs, so that's always an issue with us. In the past, the categorical programs that usually get COLA are EOPS, CARES, CalWorks, apprenticeship programs, so there's usually just a handful. This year, because there's a lot of needs, because a lot of the categoricals don't get COLA, they have to absorb all these increases. So because of that, they actually included more categoricals that will receive COLA. As you see here, it's Next Up, Basic Needs, MESA, Mental Health, Puente, VRC, and Emoja. So that's great. So hopefully, year to year, one day we'll get to where all categoricals will receive COLA, but at this point, they're not. And there is a 5% growth in the state allocated for growth. So some of the one-time investments are retention and enrollment strategies. They put $50 million. That is a decrease from January. January was $100 million. Now they put $50 million in there. LGBTQ plus pilot program, $10 million. Equal Employment Opportunity Program increased $4.2 million. Workforce Training Grant was $14 million. And one of the biggest changes was deferred maintenance, and although it doesn't say there, instructional equipment. So those fundings was put together. In the past, they used to allocate those separately. For the last, I want to say 6-7 years, they've combined that funding and where the districts get to choose how they want to allocate between deferred maintenance and instructional equipment. So last year, the state had close to $1 billion in deferred maintenance and instructional equipment. Towards the end of this year, they basically pulled half of that back. So in 22-23, the amounts that they had already allocated to school districts, $500 million were pulled back. What does that mean for College of the Desert? We lost $5.4 million of that funding. Luckily for us, we hadn't spent it yet. Some of the districts that had are going to have to figure out how to pay that back. We are going to setting up a schedule to pay that back. But what that means for us is in that category now, after we spend some of it, we have about $1.3 million left from last year's funding. And then in 23-24, they gave us a whopping $5.7 million, which for College of the Desert is $61,000, so it's not much. So the recommendation from our office was just to put that all in instructional equipment because we really can't do much of schedule maintenance with $61,000. One of the things that I did bring up when I was doing the tentative budget was they were looking to cut the COVID-19 block grant as well by half. That did not happen. And because they did cut deferred maintenance so much, what they did is they built in a flexibility between deferred maintenance funding, COVID-19 block, and the enrollment and retention and re-enrollment funds. So basically, we could use any of these funds interchangeably between one another. All of them have different restrictions, but because of this flexibility, we could use COVID-19 block grant for deferred maintenance or vice versa, as well as retention and enrollment funds. So for the College of the Desert budget, here are some of the assumptions that we used. We did incorporate an 8.22% COLA. We did incorporate as well step and column for all the employees that actually moved. There is no growth beyond COLA budgeted in this year's budget and in the following budgets, and that you'll see the presentation in the future slides. PERS did increase 1.31% from 25.37 to 26.67. STRS did not change. They remain at 19.1. More than likely, PERS will continue to increase. STRS for now will remain constant because you need less legislative action to actually increase the STRS rates. But these are significant numbers. I remember dating myself, these numbers used to be in the single digits. And now we're, as you can see, PERS is teetering on 30%. So these are significant costs that we have to incur. So with that, looking at our future year projections, we did incorporate for 24-25 the 3.54% COLA. This is taken from the Schools First information, the dartboard that they provide for us. That will be incorporated in our assumptions is incorporated to the revenue as well as the expenses. There is no growth, for 25-26, at this point in time, we budgeted 0 COLA, and I will go over why we did that in just a few minutes. There is no growth revenue beyond COLA, again, in the future years and we're assuming that we're maintaining our middle college status as well as our center status at Indio for 23-24. STRS rates, as I mentioned, are going to level off, so they're going to stay constant until there's some legislative action to increase them. And then there is a new funding base for 25-26, and this is where the 0% COLA for 25-26 takes into account. So we did have a new funding formula that was set in 18-19, and one of the things that they incorporated, because there was such a change in the funding formula, was that it was hindering the funding of a lot of districts across the state. So they incorporated a hold harmless in 18-19, which basically meant every district will receive the same amount they received in 18-19, whether if they increase, obviously they'll get more, but if they decrease, they will maintain that same funding. I'm happy to say that College of the Desert is not in hold harmless because they actually increased since 18-19. But one of those provisions is a hold harmless is ending in 24-25. So one of the things that they're going to be doing is whatever you ended up in the year of 24-25, that's going to be your brand new base. So they will benchmark you there. So moving forward, and again, we're not talking about FTS, we're talking about total computational revenue. So it's a dollar amount. Whatever we were funded in 24-25, that's the amount that we'll receive moving forward. If for some reason we don't grow above that number, the district will not receive COLA. So basically what it means is if our number is below the number we had in 24-25, we will still receive the same amount of funds as 24-25, but we will not receive more. That's a significant change than what's been going on now, that districts have been receiving hold harmless, even though if they grow or not, they still apply the COLA to that hold harmless amount. So that number kept moving up. That will no longer be the case after 24-25. So that's one of the things that we have to consider, as well as some other things that I will mention as far as FTS. So here is just a very high level of our unrestricted and restricted funds for general fund. As you can see here, there is a budget deficit of just a little bit under 1.1 million. That is a planned deficit. So currently our ongoing funds are balanced. Our ongoing revenues and our ongoing expenses have been balanced, and basically we are planning to spend down a little bit under $1.1 million of our reserves. And that will go for institutional support, as well as funding program review and some of our purchase orders in progress, which were allocated for 23-24, but will be paid, 22-23, and will be paid in 23-24. So that's what makes up that $1,089,000. And then you can see for the restricted funds, there's just a small $64,000 deficit, and that's because we had to just cover some adjustments that we had to make. But for the most part, it's balanced as well. So here's just a quick picture of our combined restricted, unrestricted, where our revenues are coming from. So we have 2% of our revenues come from federal funds, 61% come from our state, 30% come from property tax, and then 7% come from local fees and revenues. And then as far as expenses, here's basically the breakdown again of our combined general fund. So you can see here all the different categories: academic salaries, academic administrators, classified salaries, classified administrators, confidential benefits, materials. But one of the things that I want to point out here, if for some reason anybody's thinking about, hey, 50% law, this does not add up to 50% when we're looking at academic salaries. This is because, again, this is the combined general fund. 50% law is only for unrestricted funds, and not all unrestricted funds are part of that formula. So that's why it might look a little skewed. But I do have a slide showing us where we actually ended up in the 50% law later in the presentation. Ooh, I don't know what happened there. I know, so that's budget cuts. Okay, Well, for those that have the presentation in front of you, I'll go over it. For those that are just using the screen, you won't be able to see it.
It is in our book, our
Okay.
binders.
Okay.
Just in case board members want to see the full thing, it is in the binder.
And I will also add online for anyone watching, it's available on board docs. They can download the document as well.
And there's a lot of handouts in the foyer for people in the audience who want to see it. But, so you can't see it here, but our unaudited actuals, we actually ended up with a $4.4 million surplus, which is great. That brought our fund balance to a little bit over $31 million. You know, my professional recommendation for a district our size, thank you. A number that I think would be fiscally prudent would be closer to $50 million for fund balance. So slowly, we're getting there. As you can see here for 23-24, I won't go over that column again because that's the previous slide where we went over. But here in the projected years, you can see for 24-25 is where we incorporated the 3.4% COLA for revenue and expenses. But also remember, expenses also include step and column, which is around 3%. So that's why you see an increase in the deficit. And again, this is assuming we don't grow. So if we happen to grow, that number will decrease. And then in 25-26, we did not incorporate any COLA, but we still have increase in expenses because again, step and column, we always have to, and future increases in employment benefits and things like that. So, and again, no growth. That's why you see the deficit slowly growing every year. Currently, our trends for this current year, we are growing. So those numbers, when we're doing future year projections, I always try to let everybody know, you know, the way the community colleges work is at this point in time, I still don't know what I got last year. So trying to predict where I'm going to get 2 years from now is very difficult. So we're trying to be as conservative as possible.
Rod, can I just interject that when Vice President Garcia says that we are growing, that is comparative to where we were last year.
Last year, correct.
And so we are still not where we need to be, which is our high point of 2018-19, which is what we're trying to get back to. So the enrollment picture overall is continuing to look promising, but we still have some urgent work to do before 24-25.
Yes, and then there will be a slide that'll show kind of the historical trends and where we're at compared to our highest year.
Can I ask
Yes.
a question at this point? When we're looking at the beginning balance and the ending balance, that's our reserves, right?
Correct.
So what is 22, 23, what is the percent of reserves and what is it at the projected percent of reserves for 2025, 26? Do you know that information?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but it's probably close to the 23, 24 is probably close to 20%. So one of the things that I actually, thank you for asking that question, because one of the things, you know, we're looking at currently a $31 million reserve, you know, and we're wondering, that sounds like a lot of funds, but in the past, we used to have a board contingency amount that we used to have by ed code, which was 5%. Because we opted into the ECA, which I'll go over in the future slides, which is our emergency condition assistance, no longer do we do the 5%. We have to have 2 months worth of salaries and contingencies. So what does that mean for College of the Desert? That's close to $15 million. So 31 out of that $31 million in reserves, $15 million is already accounted for just for that contingency alone. So that's why I'm saying normal, I would feel more comfortable based on our size of our district to be at the $50 million mark around there for fund balance, just because some of these big issues or big items that we have to account for in fund balance.
Thank you.
I'll just wait until they put the presentation back up. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we talked about ECA, emergency condition assistance. So basically what it did is they looked at our P1, which is period 1 of our attendance report in 1920. where were we at that point in time? And basically, that's where we've been funded ever since. That provision ended last year, 22-23. So moving forward, we'll actually be using what we actually generate. So, so for 23-24, they'll take the greater of the ECA or what we generated. And this affects our college status. So we talked about that in the assumptions that we are assuming that we're going to maintain the middle college status. So this is where you can see what that funding means. So for the basic allocation, if we're a medium college, we get $8.6 million no matter what. If you're a small college, you get 6.4 million. So you can see that's a difference of $2.2 million. Student center, we have Indio that's considered a student center. If that center generates more than 1,000 FTS, we get $2.1 million. For some reason, if it falls below that, you will lose that funding as well. So potentially, between those two, that's $4.3 million, just in base allocation alone. So our ECA from 1920 is 10,353. So that's what we've been being funded for the last few years. Our actual reported FTS last year was 9,380.9. So basically for 23-24, they still take the higher of the two. So we're still using the 10,353 until next year. So what does that mean for us? So basically that's how we calculate our restoration as well as our middle and center status. So as you can see here, obviously simple math, the amount that we've been funded the last few years, which is a 10,353, minus what we actually generated last year, our restoration number is 972.63, which doesn't sound like a lot of FTS, but that is 10% of our total FTS. So that is really, really hard to increase from year to year, especially because when we're talking about increase, there's a 3-year average component. So even if we were to grow 10% in a year, because there's a 3-year average, we wouldn't actually receive 10% growth.
Maybe to contextualize that 972 number, that would essentially add up to over 300 full classes. Just to think about what that means in terms of scale. Thanks, Ron.
So what does that mean for restoration? So that means we have 3 years to restore our FTS to hit that 10,000 FTS as a district-wide and that 1,000 for the Indio Center. So we have till 26-27 to hit those marks. If we don't, we get re-benchmarked to whatever we were at that point in time. Another thing for, the different, we talk about growth and we talk about restoration, and the difference between the two is, earlier I talked about growth, and the state always putting a certain amount of growth on the table every year. So this year it's 0.5%. That doesn't necessarily that we only get 0.5%, because if all districts don't grow 0.5%, that means that if that growth is left on the table, districts that are growing could capture a little bit more than the 0.5%. But if we grow more than that, technically we wouldn't. Restoration does not have that cap. So other than that 3-year average, we can restore as quickly as we want with no cap. So that's why it's good to make sure that we try to restore before 26-27, or else we'll be subject not only to the 3-year average, but also to that whatever the percentage cap will be in that year. But I haven't seen it more than 0.5% or percent, God, in 10 years, because all the districts have been declining. So they haven't been allocating funds for growth. Okay, and here is the slide that President Hope talked about earlier. So you could see 1920 was our highest year. So, and you're probably wondering, well, wait a minute, I thought we were being funded 10,253, and this is a little higher. The funding that we got was a P1. All these amounts are annual, so at the end of the year. So you can see, based on what we generated last year, we're still over 1,300 FTS lower than we were in 1920. So we're trending upward, but we still have a lot of work to do. So this slide, I tried to blow up as much as possible so everybody wouldn't be like me, just squinting at the paper. But I know last time there was a lot of questions at tentative budget asking, what FTS we had to hit in order to be out of stability. And the answer was, well, it depends, because not every FTS is created equal. They're all funded at different rates. But there's a different component as well to our funding formula. So this is just a snippet of a piece of our total computational revenue. So outside of FTS, we also get funded for supplemental allocation, which is basically what students do we serve, and their success. So if you look at the top portion, student supplemental allocation, you can see that we get, and that number is last year's number. So the current number for that is 1,240. So we get 1,240 additional dollars for every AB 540 student, every Pell Grant student, and every Promise student. And some students could actually qualify for more than one. Some could be a Pell student and a Promise student, which means we would get close to $3,000 for every student. So this is another component that we'll have to be looking at. So it's not necessarily just increase your FTS. It's also who do we serve. So basically, so you can see there, you would take how the point says all one. So it's basically you take the 1,240 times that one times how many students we serve. The student success portion is a little bit different, but you can see there, those are the Chancellor's Office, what they've identified as the matrix for student success. So you see associated student degree for transfer, associate degrees, baccalaureate degrees, credit certificates, transfer level math and English first year, transfer to university, 9 units or more of CTE units, and then regional living wages. All those aren't weighted equally, as you can see here. So if we had a student that received an associate degree transfer, what we would get is $730 for that student times 4, that multiplier, times the weighted average of how many of those students we had. So this one actually does take a weighted average, and then we receive that funding. But on top of that, if that student is a Pell student, we receive $184 times 6 times that weighted average again. And if they're also a Promise student, same thing. So you can see it's not necessarily the only thing we could do to increase that revenue is just get more students in. It's also making sure that they're more successful. So just to give you a sense of how much we got last year, for the supplemental allocation, we received $13.7 million, and for success, 9.1. So between both, we had $23 million. So this is another area that we could focus heavily on to make sure that, because not only is this good for us, but it's good for our students, because this increases their success. So future considerations. So again, we have the $31.5 billion deficit. We are not a K-12 where they have automatic backfill. Community colleges do not. So if for some reason the state feels they don't have enough funding because they haven't addressed that deficit, they will deficit us. Last year, the deficit number was less than 1%. So we really never know until we get closer towards the end of the year. Our FTS restoration of 972 FTS by 26-27, possible loss of middle college status and center status. Again, deferred maintenance cuts. One of the main things that I didn't mention before is because they cut so much in deferred maintenance and instructional equipment, the likelihood of them funding that anytime soon is probably really unlikely. So for the last couple of years, we've been getting a lot of money in deferred maintenance. But previous to that, we received all community colleges zero, probably for 5, 6, 7 years. So what does that mean? That means that all deferred maintenance costs fall on the backs of the community college. They have to figure out how to pay for that. And I could tell you, in my experience, one emergency could be $1 million. So those are things that we have to take into consideration: significant construction cost escalations, rising healthcare premiums, rising employer pension costs. And again, the need for long-term fiscal perspective remains. So, I didn't want to end the presentation with just risk. So here, oh no, they ruined this one too. But you can see, but this is where we ended up with a 50% law in 22-23. So I'm happy to report that we were at 50.5, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is really good. I can tell you there's community colleges out there that are 50.00002. And there is a lot of audits going around the districts for any districts that's very close that they're auditing these numbers. So that 0.5% equates to $376,000. So that is really good for our district. 50.5 is a really good number. It doesn't sound like it is, but it is. So with that, oh, I'm not in that one anymore. But it's just thank you and open it up for questions.
Madam Chair. Yeah. On the total computation, is dual enrollment included in that?
Yes. So the piece that I showed you for total computational revenue is a quarter of the actual formula. I wasn't gonna make you guys cross-eyed and look at those two pages of numbers, but yes, it is. When they incorporated the new funding formula, it was supposed to make it easier, and year by year, they made it more and more complex.
If I could add too, I think, the dual enrollment piece is helpful for both sides of the total computational revenue, helpful for the FTS side, as well as the success and equity metrics. However, there are some baked in disadvantages as well, and we have to evaluate that. So for instance, the college receives additional funding for every student who completes transfer level math and English in their first year of enrollment. That does not apply to dual enrollment, however. And so we still have to deal with some disincentives while we also have incentives, which is what makes it so complex and really illustrates the hard work that both Diana Guijarro and Rod Garcia put in putting all of this together and explaining it simply. Thank you.
Madam Chair, no questions on my end, but I do want to thank Vice President Garcia and Diana for their great work and this very informative and really thorough presentation. I think it's probably the best budget presentation I've received since I've been on the board, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other board members?
No, just likewise, thank you so much, for this thorough presentation to both of you. I'm sure it took a really long time to compile. I was also really happy to see that, I know 1,000 students can be a lot, but I think, that looks pretty good considering, everything that we've been through here at the college, right, with the pandemic and everything else. And I do want to acknowledge staff because it looks like, even during that time, enrollment was pretty steady, and I know that was, due to the, faculty being able to provide those services virtually or whatnot. So just happy to see. Yeah. Sad in some areas, happy in others, but thank you so much for the presentation.
Any other board members? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you for such a comprehensive report.
Thank you.
And I want to chime in my thanks. I attended the CCC meeting in May, and they kind of gave us a preliminary of this, and it was clear as mud. And it was very disheartening because everything was negative, negative, negative. And unfortunately, my blood type is B positive, but it was very difficult after that. So I really want to thank you because you made it understandable what it looks like, and you brought it down to our level and our site here so that we could understand better what was going on. And so I really want to thank you for that. So thank you very much, Vice President Garcia, and thank your group for working so hard on this. This is a lot of work, I know, to bring it into our school site, as well as looking at the numbers and what's going on around the, from the state level and the national level and all, and bringing it all together. So I really, really want to thank you for that. And So I don't think we're going to have any more comments for you for a few minutes at least, because now we're going to conduct a public hearing on the fiscal year 2023-2024 final budget. Following the public hearing, the board will vote to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. And for the public hearing, each speaker is allowed a maximum of 3 minutes on the topic. 15 minutes shall be the maximum time allotment for public speakers on the subject, regardless of the number of speakers at any one board meeting. At the discretion of majority of the board, these limits may be extended. Would any speakers or attendees who wish to address this item please come forward? Comment now in the chat field or select the raise your hand button to speak. IT, please set a timer for 30 seconds to allow speakers to come forward. Armando, have any speakers asked to be recognized?
There are no speakers at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, are there any speakers wishing to come forward? And I believe that was the 30 seconds that we have to allow. If there are no additional speakers who wish to address the board on this matter, having conducted the public hearing, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees vote to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. Do I have a motion to approve item 12.01 as presented?
Move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the final budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing no discussion, a roll call vote, please, President Hope.
Student trustee Zarco.
Aye.
Trustee Odin.
Aye.
Trustee Kinnaman.
Aye.
Trustee Perez.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Stefan.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, that was 12. And at this time, we'll move into study session. We already did that one. Okay. So it's public comments. Requests to address the Board of Trustees regarding matters not on the agenda. Remote public participation is allowed and will be accepted in person by email to otp@collegeofthedesert.edu during the meeting and submitted for the record, or by using the raise your hand function by joining the Zoom link. Pursuant to the District Administrative Procedure 2343, each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes per topic. 15 minutes shall be the maximum time allotment for public speakers on any one subject, regardless of the number of speakers at any one board meeting. At the discretion of a majority of the board, these limits may be extended. All comments must be submitted or brought forward prior to the end of the public comments section. As an additional note, this item is intended for members of the public who wish to speak regarding matters not related to the agenda. Armando, have we received any public comments?
There are no public comments at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And now we go into future agenda items. As a reminder, we included a document attached to this item that lists the future agenda items that the trustees have requested for the academic year. So student trustees Zarco, is there anything you would like to add?
No.
And trustee Odin? Trustee Kinnaman,
No.
Trustee Perez,
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Trustee Gonzalez.
I do. I have one. I'm just listening to the presentation on the budget and just having some conversation earlier this week from some folks that are interested in doing some donations for some scholarships, which I'll be sharing that information with you, President Hope. Would it be possible, just because I want to understand, so if I am approached by folks, I want to be able to understand the process myself so that I can actually have a good conversation. I would like to request a presentation where we talk about all the scholarships that are provided here at the college. You know, I know the foundation does them, and I saw a few more there. So, like, what's the process? What's the qualification? How long does it take? You know, with the application period, the actual issuance of the funds and whatnot. Just so that I want to better understand. I know we do a lot for students, and you know, I'll have to give it to you, Trustee Kinnaman, for when you were president here, that students are able to attend here, you know, free of cost. You know, shout out to you for that. But I do want to understand a little bit more of the process of, you know, scholarships and how long it takes and whatnot, and what all we provide. So if we can have that, thank you.
Great. Anything else? Okay. There's one thing that I'd like to add to that. After the 2x2 or the 2x1 meeting that we had in Indio, we need to look into parking. Anytime we're expanding a facility, we need to really look into parking. So if we could have a parking study for the Indio campus, and we may want to in the future include other campuses as we build them to have studies for parking as well. Okay, at this time, the board will now recess to closed session, and a live feed of this meeting will continue. Board members and President Hope, I ask that you please join closed session I have it at 11:10. I think I'm pretty close. And if we could be in there by 11:30, that would be great. So I'll see you all then, and then we will come back to open session.
Oh, yeah, no. I said no to the picture. I didn't like it.
Something filling up my lungs. Every color of your love, I've seen enough, I want another. Every color of your love, I've seen enough, I want another. Hey, little mama, when you so alone, no, I don't wanna miss you, honey. Come home. Knock, knock, you're coming over. Couple times a week. Hanging on my shoulder. Shaking like a leaf. Every color of your love, I've seen enough, I want another.
And we will reconvene to open session at this time. We have no action to report out. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting in memory of Nicole Tortoris, and I will now adjourn the regular board meeting of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees at 1:08. Thank you.